morning. My name is Julie Skibiris, and welcome to the last edition of Your Life, Your Voice for 2020. Today we have a pre-recorded session, and at the end of the recording, I will come back and end the session. I hope you enjoy our last interview. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the last edition of Your Life, Your Voice. My name is Julie Skibiris, and I'd like to welcome Nemo, my guest speaker, my co-presenter for today. Hi, Nemo. Oh.
Hi, Julie. How are you? Thanks for having me again.
Thanks, Nemo, for taking time out of your very busy schedule. So
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And our guest speaker today is Colin Hiscoe. Sorry, Colin.
That's all right.
He's from Reinforce, and it's the longest self-advocacy group in Australia, I believe.
Yes.
So that's really good. So before we start our interview, Colin, I'll just do the acknowledgements. Acknowledgement of country. So D&D Your Life, Your Voice project acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I work and live, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. I pay respects to elders, past, present and emerging. D&D Your Life, Your Voice project also acknowledge the hard work of self-advocates over the years for the right for themselves and other people with disabilities to live in the community, to achieve equality and human rights for all. Nothing about us without us. Okay, we're back. Anyway, Colin.
Yes.
Once again, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed.
That's okay.
Colin, can you tell us a little bit about your life?
Okay, well, I'm a 70-year-old man. I was born in Leeds in England in 1950. I came to Australia when I was 12. I came by ship. And I first learned about self-advocacy when my friend who was living with myself was invited to a conference, and we both decided that we'd like to go. I had permission to go, and from there I heard a whole lot of stories about what people were doing and saying and talking about, and that made me, in one way, that made me really happy. Why I say in one way, because the other way I was crying, and I was crying because of the pain and the injustice they may have been going through. I'm sorry, I'm going to cry again myself. So I just decided that, listening to their stories, it was almost like their story was my story and my story was their story. And it was almost like what they were saying was exactly the same thing as what I was saying. And that made me really happy because at long last, I felt like I'd found something where I could go to get help and support and learn how to speak up and do things. So that was really exciting for me. So as soon as I got back to Melbourne, I went into the office of Reinforce, filled in an application form, and that was accepted, and I became a member of Reinforce, and that was in 1982. And I'm still a member of Reinforce in 2020. The only difference is that from 1990 to 2000, I moved to South Australia for 10 years, and I got a job in South Australia as a self-advocate. Is that enough?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm just trying to pick up on what you said. Can you tell us a little bit about the stories that you heard that inspired you?
Well, I just heard about that. Some of the stories that people were talking about were what it was like in the institution and that they had no basic human rights. And even in sheltered workshops, that was the same thing. And even in community residential units, nobody had any basic human rights. They had to eat when they got told. They had to go to bed when they got told. They had to get up when they got told. And you soon learned to keep your mouth shut. Because if you didn't keep it shut, you'd be in one hell of trouble.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that, Colin, a little bit?
Well, it's a long time since that happened, but one incident I do remember is where there's this young man, and his father was a minister, and I think he used to have religion drummed into him, and he always used to want to carry his Bible and books with him. Anyway, this particular day he got up, he found out, he just remembered that he hadn't got his Bible and books. So he went up to the charge nurse and asked him to open the bedroom door so he can get to his locker and get his Bible and books and whatnot. Then the nurse just grabbed hold of him by the collar, lifted him up off the floor a little bit, with his fist near the man's face, saying, "No, now, nick off. You're not allowed your books. You're just another Bible basher like your dad." And then just put him back down again. Then he seen me. Now, whether you count it as a good thing that happened, I count it as a bad thing that happened. And the reason being that I walked out exactly the same time as that resident was getting told off. And then the staff member came up to me, grabbed hold of my shirt collar, his fist in my face, saying, "You didn't see anything, did you, Hiscoe?" I said, "See what?" He said, "That's right. You remember that, otherwise I'll come after you." So it was those sorts of things. And it's almost like you had to be on your deathbed before you got any help or support. So I remember a couple of times where I've been complaining that I was sick. "Oh, Hiscoe, you're just putting on another tantrum. All you don't want to do is go to occupational therapy. Get to occupational therapy before I kick you up the you-know-where." Anyway, another time there was about 6 people down with the flu, and they were all in bed. And I was in bed with the flu as well. I'm not on the charge nurse's door. "Oh, what's up with you, Hiscoe? You here again to make another bloody false complaint?" I said, "This is not fault. I feel absolutely crook. I've been vomiting. I feel like I've got a temperature. I'm shaking. I'm not shaking." And then he said, "Well, we better take your temperature, but watch out if you've got no temperature." Anyway, reading between the lines what that meant. Anyway, he took my temperature, and I did have a temperature, 38 point something. He said, "Oh, well, you better get to bed like everybody else. We'll get one of the nurses to come up and give you some tablets, give you a cough mixture, give you medicine, give you a needle in the bum, stop you from being sick." And that was that. And then we just eventually got better. There was, one more incident, if I'm allowed. I walked in one day of the unit where I was. And it was where we were allowed in because occupational therapy had finished. So I just went back to sit in the lounge room and watch a bit of TV or something. Anyway, when I walked in the door, I noticed there was nobody there. And all I could smell was a real strong smell of methylated spirits. Then what happened was that this person stuck his head behind the curtain. Shh, shh, don't tell anyone. You can guess who it was, and they were drinking methylated spirits while they were on duty.
Yeah, so that's awful. I'm sorry we had to go through that. So throughout the last, say, probably about 20 years or so, we've had royal commissions, and I'm not sure whether you're aware, Nemo, but institutions were run generally by religious dominations,
Yep.
all types of religious dominations. So one can't really point the finger at one or two, but we've heard of through the Royal Commissions these sort of abuses, and yes, it's really heart-wrenching to hear these stories.
Yeah, I was interviewed. Sorry to cut you off, Julie. I was interviewed at one of those Royal Commissions looking into violence and abuse within community residential units. And I was fortunate enough, along with a friend of mine from a self-advocacy group who was a worker, and there's about 6 of us all together from all different organisations. And I was fortunate enough to speak at that forum, and boy, did I let them have it. I was polite. I just about what I remember was that it's great having this Royal Commission. Fantastic, great, good on you. Pass on the back to anybody who's organised it, and to you people there as the commission or whatever you want to call yourselves. My only concern I've got is that I've noticed that there's no self-advocates that's being interviewed. Now, I would like to beg you, I'll go down on my hands and knees if you want me to, but you'll have to help me up because I won't be able to get up because of my balance. But I beg you that you contact the community residential groups and talk to the residents. But I want to warn you, those residents won't know you from a bar of soap. And they're thinking, who in the hell are you? And if the staff find out that you're going to be talking to a Royal Commission, the staff are going to make sure that you say all nice things about the house and make sure you put good words in about the house, put good words in about the staff, do all of this. And then I think you call him the chairperson, I'm not sure. He was the one that asked me, wow, Colin, you do ask bloody hard questions. I said, well, that's the only way you can be. You don't ask the hard questions, you don't get anywhere. He said, well, I want to know, do you have any answer on how we can get to talk to the residents living in the group homes? I said, yes, I do. Ring up and talk to a resident only. Make an appointment to meet them somewhere and go out for a cup of coffee. Then you're going to have to sit and talk to them for a while. You're going to have to get to know that person. You're going to have to know what makes them tick. And they're going to have to get used to you and know that you're not another person that belts me up because I say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And it was just really amazing. And they said to me that we promise that we'll get somebody to ring you and we'll have a meeting and talk about more about this. As of yet, it hasn't happened, but you never know.
That's an interesting point, Colin. Look, I know a lot of self-advocates as you do, and but self-advocates that I know, speak up for themselves because that's their passion. But you make a good point. If you live in a community home, a residential home, how do you break the barrier of um, of that fear that people are not going to get, abused or given a hard time because they've spoken up. So it's well and good to have a royal commission, but how do you get to the real guts of the problem, and how do you address attitudinal barriers and issues in staff and all that sort of stuff? So maybe that's another project that a self-advocacy group can take on, and maybe you could have some ILC backing or something of that nature. But that's a huge topic, Colin.
Can I try and answer you? I was just thinking about what you were saying then, and I'm thinking about how can we make sure that we get to the people that we want. Now, I think one of the ways we've got to try and do it is to find out who owns or who the group home is run by. Is it run by DHHS, or is it run by Urella or Tom Mix or Joe Blow from Mexico? And then I think you need to get your foot in that door. Talk to the person who can make decisions without going through anybody. So it's almost like the person who's in charge of all the group homes, of that particular group home, sorry. Now, for an example, Julie, if you're that person that's in charge, I'd want to make a meeting with you. I'd want to be able to sit down and talk to you. I want to talk to you about the issues and the problems that we're facing. I want to try and get you to understand what it's like from the point of view of a resident. I think that might be a bit hard for you, but I'll try. And the reason I say it's a bit hard, unless you've been in one, and unless you know the problems and issues that go on in there, you can't make any comments. You'd be guessing, and you'd be probably telling an untruth. But what I'd love to try and do is to sit, talk with you, maybe have a couple of meetings, 2 or 3 meetings, however long it takes, and to break that barrier with you. And then once we've got that barrier broken with you, then we get you to ring, we'll say Smith Street in Collingwood, a name I've just made up. There's a CIU there, and the person in charge there is Nemo. I'll ring her and I'll let her know that you're going to be coming tomorrow and you want to go somewhere for a coffee with a couple of the residents. So I'll come, I'll meet Nemo, I'll talk to Nemo. She'll ask me what all this is about. I'll tell her honestly and openly. I'll tell her exactly the same thing as what I told you, Julie, and why we want to do it. And I don't believe the same as you, unless Nemo has been in a community residential unit and knows what it's like and knows the issues, then I don't think she could come in. She can come in and say, oh, wow, Smith Street, fantastic place. We've got everybody cooking meals 5 days a week. We have people cleaning the house. We have people all over, and you can make this beautiful picture. That's okay. That's what you want to do. You do it. And then I'll start to tell you that one of the reasons I'm here is to take a couple of residents out for a coffee. Now that might be for 2 or 3 times or over a month. And that reason is so they get to know me and I get to know them. And then once they come back in the institution, if you do anything to them and try and force them to tell you what they said and what I've said, I'd want that person to ring me so that then I could go back to Julie and tell Julie, I want to make a complaint against Nemo. I've just been talking to Fred. He's gone back into the unit. He's a real mess. He's crying. He doesn't know what to do. He's been sent to his room, no tea. And he's just rang me all distressed. And he's told me that Nemo hearing told him, oh, you've said all this thing and none of this is true. You're just a bad person. You're going to end out on the street if you keep going doing those things. Sorry, I'm getting a bit annoyed and a bit angry. So that's what I want to try and do. Sorry, it's been a long-winded, but I'm really passionate about the rights of people. You've got this beautiful smile on your face, Nemo, and I just love it.
Thank you so much, Colin. Now, what you described is actually a really, really good plan to engage with people and to find out the real stories and not have people out of scope like me who has never been in anything that you're describing and come out and speak on their behalf, which I don't think it's right. I agree with that strategy. What I'm hearing from you is that you do have concerns about speaking up, or you do have concerns about others speaking up, and after they speak up, having some sort of a backlash just because they spoke up about their own situation. And I think, in 2020, that's a very devastating thing to hear. It's like we haven't changed much, have we? In theory, everything is like looking great, but from your experiences and your concerns that you just mentioned, I don't think that much has changed.
There are some staff, I believe, and there are some people in community and within federal government, I'm not sure about state government, that believe self-advocacy should not exist and nobody should have the basic human rights of anybody. And we should not have the right to go and talk to residents about their rights, because one day, one person out of 100 say. So if I've interviewed 100 people, I hope that just one person would take that first step and have enough guts to be able to say, hey, I've got my basic human rights. You can't hit me. You can't tell me to go to bed. You can't tell me to do this, that, and the other. I have basic human rights. If I want a TV, then I should have the right to buy that TV. I'll settle for just one person out of a million, out of 10 million, out of as many people as you can imagine. I would accept one person. The reason I accept that one person, then they can go and do the work that I've been doing and that other people have been doing and other self-advocates have been doing, and see if they can get one person to be able to take that first step and have enough guts and courage to do it. Sorry, I was getting angry.
No, we really love your passion, Colin. And I heard you talk a few years ago. And I thought this guy is really great. He's really passionate about this topic that about residential housing. And yeah, so you're right though. Years ago when I started running groups in centres, day centres, it was really a baptism of fire, because the management were really good. They supported self-advocacy, but then the actual support workers that we worked with, one in particular, she was totally against the principles of self-advocacy. And so we got into, and she actually made a complaint about us on the first day of this first funded session of our group. I was working with someone new also, so that was really, another thing I had to deal with. And she made a false complaint. So then we had to work all year to educate this woman about the benefits of self-advocacy and for ladies to have voice. So sometimes, a lot of the time, I think it's about breaking those barriers that the workers have, and they're sort of like, yeah. So that's what I feel, what I'm seeing on the ground, and a lot of these people have been doing that work for a long time, over 20 years, and they don't necessarily have the training. So nowadays, to become a support worker, you have to have at least certificate 4, I think, in disability. But these ladies, you know, they don't have that background. So they just have this really patronising attitude towards the ladies in the group. It was really interesting that one time this lady wasn't there, and we asked the participants if they were in trouble to name five people they could go to, and not one of them mentioned this lady, the support worker, which they spent a lot of time with. They mentioned a bus driver, they mentioned the coordinator, they mentioned other team leaders, but they did not mention this lady. So it was really interesting insight. But if she was there, if she was actually there with the group, they would say, oh yes, you know, they would have mentioned her, because it's that idea of, you know, we have to do the right thing or else. And that's a really interesting insight that I've had, and that what you've confirmed, Colin, that happens in these organisations. So it's a matter of survival. And we don't want a matter of survival. We want a situation where people are not, you know, are not sanctioned or bullied or their rights taken away, or their food taken away, or something they love taken away, just as punishment. That's like this, that. Hopefully those practices have ended like decades ago, but I still see that it could happen, and it probably does happen under the covers. And then, would you like to add anything else to that conversation?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, were you going to say something, Colin?
No, you got Nemo.
Yeah, I'm basically, you know, angry and frustrated the fact that we are talking about this in 2020. You know, it's you know, this thing should not be happening at all. Like, I don't understand how they can legally do this. You know, people should have the right and choice to say how they feel. Everybody else does that, whether you in a community residential home or whether you live on your own. Your values and your rights shouldn't be interfered with. You know, if you, I mean, yeah, it's illegal. Can I just say that? What they are doing, the individuals do this is illegal, and I really hope they are sorted soon. And I mean, Colin, the Royal Commission that's about to commence, are you gonna contribute towards that?
I know nothing about this one that's coming up.
Yeah.
I've only done the one on violence and abuse in group homes.
Julie, do you want to touch on the new one?
I haven't done enough reading about it, Nemo. Yeah. So do you know much about it?
And I haven't done much about it, but I was reading through online, and I found an advocacy group that are supporting people who want to share the information. So, Colin, what I can do is I can pass that information to Julie, and Julie can pass it to you, because there's a group, an organization has been established that are gonna support self-advocacy to have their say.
Okay. I was just wondering also, when you were talking, Julie, and you as well, Nemo, that I was wondering about, well, I've noticed when I've been doing talks and whatnot, and I try and watch my language that I use. And what I mean by that, I don't mean swear words. I mean that I use words that people hopefully would understand. Even, I might use the word self-advocacy, and nobody understands what that is. And sometimes you can see the looks on their face. And I'd love to, somehow maybe with another group or something. I'm not sure. This is just all in my head at the moment. I've just been thinking about. I need to think about it more properly, see if it could work. And that is that we get some people from, maybe we start with the self-advocacy groups. I'm not sure, but I'll just say we'll start with self-advocacy groups. And then we'll run a forum. And that forum is around where we're doing role plays. I'm a really believer in role plays, and I'm a real believer in good and bad role plays because it gives you a chance to explore it. So what I was thinking is if we can run some bad role plays around what happens to some people with a disability, and then talk about it with the people there, and find out what they think and feel. Now, if they're saying that yes, that is correct, okay, the role play is I'm getting my shirt screwed to my throat. I'm getting lifted off the ground, and a face near my face, a face near my face. Now, the question is that a good thing or a bad thing to do? If people are saying it's a good thing, then I'd want to explore further about why they think it's a good thing, and try and get them to understand that it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing. And excuse me, everybody in that room has the same basic human rights as anyone living in the community.
I guess anybody with a common sense knows that having your fist at someone else's face is not okay.
Okay, we won't use that. We might use where I'm sent to bed with no tea. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It absolutely is a terrible thing. And the person doing it is a terrible person, Colin. Like, I'm sorry that, like, I feel like, I can't even believe that we are being subjected to this at this, this century. It's actually like mind disturbing, to say the least. Even though I'm saying that, I've had issues because I recently had children, yep, as recent as 2017, and my first child in 2013. And I was looking at the situations that I was being put in, and I actually couldn't believe that was even happening at that time. But you are just opening my eyes to like a world that I just haven't even thought of, like, to physically touch someone, or to even portray that you are going to hurt them. It's just uncalled for, and I'm sorry that that this is actually happening, and we have to still raise awareness around it, because it shouldn't be.
Can I just say that I don't know if it is happening now? That I'm talking about 60s, 70s, and whatever. And I got told that in 1960, for an example, Nemo, you got a child. You've got a child, and you can't deal with the child. It's noisy, it's yelling, it's screaming, breaks things, throws things. So you go to the department for help. In the 1960s, all they said was, "Oh, there's this institution, bang him in there, forget all about him, he'll be all right." That was in the 1960s. Now, thank God, institutions are closing, except maybe for some forensic science or something that's got resident from Janefield or something in I don't want to go into that area, but yeah, I just wish that, I wonder, a question for both of you maybe and for your listeners. My question is, if we can prove that there are things that are happening that shouldn't be happening, and we've got the proof for that, I wonder if the Human Rights Commissioner will be able to do anything.
Yeah, that's a great question, Colin.
The Human Rights Commissioner has just been on TV, I think it was yesterday or the day before, something about Ministry of Housing flats in North Melbourne and somewhere else. And she's saying that the government of, what's the word I'm looking for? The government gave nobody any, government was not allowing the people living in those places, they weren't allowed give them any rights. All they did was, okay, we're just shutting this down now. We're going to have police, we're going to have security, we're going to have all these things. You're not allowed to go out for food, you're not allowed to get bread, you're not allowed to get milk. And one of the things that worried me when I heard that was, if you're from another country, I'm not sure how to explain this, but I'll try, and I hope I don't say the wrong thing. Nemo, I can see that your face is like a brownie colour. Now that might mean to me, and I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude. That to me might mean that you're from another country. Now you might be, say, like from Zimbabwe. I'm not saying you are. I'm just using an example.
Close enough.
Now, because you're from Zimbabwe, and there's people there, and the security might be the same colour as what you are, you're going to be absolutely scared out your wits. Why? Because of what happened in your country and what people did to you. Yeah,
Yeah, I understand what you mean. And those were actually the people that were locked down in the towers were people of majority of them were people of my background. So yeah. I'm from East Africa, Colin. I'm Somalian background. And yeah, majority of the residents of those flats was Somalian and other East Africans. And there are obviously other nationalities and even some Australians who do live there. But you'll be happy to know that the Ombudsman has ruled it to be illegal and unfair. And, we knew that was the case.
We've won one.
Yeah, that was quite disturbing when that was happening in Flemington. I think it was the Flemington flats where they were closed down, and it was basically a prison. You're a prison in your own very small, I would imagine, apartment, and people were leaving banners on their windows and that was great that the Human Rights Commission has ruled that it's illegal. But I just wonder from there what happens. What are the repercussions to the government? So
I think the government will probably apologise, but I don't know.
The government are not going to apologise.
Pardon?
The governments are not going to apologise.
They're not?
No. In their eyes, they've done nothing wrong. You should be grateful because we've saved their life. Otherwise, they may have got this virus, and then they may pass away because they're not strong enough to get rid of it. You should be thanking us that we've saved their lives and done all of this in these towers.
Yes, it's a huge debate. Since the start of this interview, and what all said, I say this is a topic. This will be a PhD topic.
Can we do another? Would it be possible for you to do another topic, another session on this same topic, and see if we can't come up with some answers of some kind? Could the Human Rights Commissioner step in or something? Or
Yeah, look, we do have a series 2 coming next year, Colin. So this is our first year on YouTube. So leave it with me. I'm going to have to ask management for their guidance.
Yep.
Because even though it looks like we can talk about whatever we like. We still have guidelines we have to follow. Management and D&D management and the Migrant Resource Centre Northwest Management. So because D&D is a project of the Migrant Resource Centre, so there are guidelines we have to follow. So, but that's a good point because we have had in this series professionals that have come on and spoke about their speciality relating to all sorts of issues to do with communications and other things.
Can I just sorry, Julie, you go.
Go on.
Can I just say can I just tell you one little incident that I've seen on that on that show when they were showing what was happening to the people there. There was this young lady, and she had a sign, and she held this sign up against the window, and that sign was saying "help." I'd love to know how old she was, and if she was under 12, fancy a person under 12 having to ask for help. Where in the bloody hell is this world going?
Yes, it's been a really extraordinary year this year, and there's going to be lots of issues dealing with PTSD and other sort of issues. I think, unfortunately, I think we've lost more people to other things, which I don't want to really talk about because it may distress people, than to COVID-19. So, you just have to really wonder, where to from now. I'm very hopeful that the virus will be under control next year, but there's going to be lots of fallouts and issues and mental health issues of young people, especially because losing hope is a very severe thing to deal with. So yes, and there's been lots of money put into mental health organisations, but there's going to have to be a lot more support out there for people to deal with issues relating to this year. So, Nemo, would you like to any other comments about this?
Yeah. Julie, the initial lockdown of the towers were not actually a major problem for the people, but it was the fact that they were singled out. The rest of us, when we were going into lockdown, we've been given a clear notice. Wednesday, that time, curfew will start. You can't leave your house for other than 4 reasons. But these people were not treated like that. They were literally told, we are downstairs in your building and you can't come down and you can't go in. A colleague of mine that I work with, his story has actually been published in the New York Times because his mother was not allowed back into the building. I think he stayed for can't remember, but for a lot of days, probably more than a week, she could not come back home. And they could not come outside. Now, no one else in Australia was subjected to that unless you were stuck in another state. And even then, exemptions were made. So the thing is, why were they treated like that? That's the trigger. That's what's upsetting people. It wasn't that they were locked down. It was that they were treated different. And that's always the case, right? So people like us with disability, we are always treated different. Like my friend Janet, who I adore so much, and a colleague, she always says, as people with disability, we have to be extraordinary just to be ordinary. And the same goes for anybody who has been either discriminated against or has been, subjected to this kind of treatment, is that they are not ordinary people. They are always given extra obligations, or, they somehow are dismissed, right? And that's the problem. That's where the problem is with disability, with racial discrimination. That's what it is. We are treated different, and that's not right. And that's what we have the problem with. And I think I'll leave it right there.
Can I just add another comment with what you were talking about? It's got me really, really angry and annoyed. And I'd like to know, why is it that we have to be so different to anybody else? Why can't we all have the same basic human rights as anyone else? Why is it that people with a disability always have to try and prove themselves? It's not fair. I want to have the same basic human rights as Daniel Andrews or anybody else on this bloody earth.
And then you deserve that, Colin. You deserve that. And I'm sorry you have to get upset about this.
That's okay.
You deserve the same as Bill Gates and Daniel Andrews and everybody else, because
all people with a disability deserve it. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, there's a saying that comes to my mind, and it hasn't slipped my mind. So it'll come back to me because sometimes I get these thoughts, and if I don't write them down right away, they escape. So I'll just see if I can think of it again. Okay, so look, I'm going to have to skip some questions because they're pretty, they're being dealt with. But one question I want to rephrase. So have you seen any changes, positive changes, Colin, in the disability sector that has made a huge difference?
I think there's been changes. Institutions have now closed, so there's a change. People with a disability are being asked what they think about things. I'm thinking of the state plan, disability plan. When that first came out, I was part of a group of people with a disability that was pulling that to shreds, and we managed to change quite a lot of stuff in that very first 10-year plan. Now we're not even asked for our opinion. I don't know why. They've got some organisation, I think it might have been Urella or somewhere like that, just doing all drawings and doing all things, and the departments all different departments putting their things in. I just wish there was more asking of people with a disability and taking this seriously. So if we ask for something and it's impossible, and you know it's impossible, sit down and discuss with me why that's not a good idea. Don't just say, oh, no, we can't do that. We're not going to worry about that one. You can nick off now, Colin, you've had your say. Just sit and talk with me about why it can't happen. Why can't we? Maybe another question for all your listeners, and then I'll be quiet. Maybe quiet.
We don't want you to be quiet, Colin. We want you to be out there and, doing what you do best. And that's, speaking up for those people who don't have the confidence to get out there and have a voice.
And that's what's so sad. That's what makes me so sad, because you've got to try and explain it in a way that they can understand. And I think that's the hardest part. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. What would you like to see more of in the disability sector, Colin?
Do I ever make it one? Hang on, I just need a drink of water.
Sure.
Was that word you were thinking of? Nothing about me without me?
No, it was something a little bit longer than that. It still hasn't come into my head again. So
That's all right.
this is the thing also because I've actually had viral meningitis when I was 6 months old.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I have that strategy to deal with that when it comes to my memory. So even though people look like they're coping, there are things on the inner that people aren't aware of, and that's with everyone really. We never know a person. We never really know a person what they've been through. So even though people look good and dandy, there are things happening on the inside that people aren't aware of. So yeah, they call it invisible disability. Yes, so I like to just acknowledge all those people in the community with that invisible disability, and for others who may look at these people and see all the benefits that they get, just have a think about having a crack at them when they're in the shopping centre or when they're doing things that others think they're not worthy of, or they don't have a right to. They're being attacked in different settings, and so I'd just like to mention that just you never know the life of a person or what they have to deal with.
Julie, a funny thing that happened, that happens to me actually often is because I drive, right? And I mean, that's just one of the basic things in life. And every time I go into the disability sector, not every time, sometimes someone will jump like out of nowhere and yell at me, that's a disabled parking. And I'm like, yeah. Well, why are you in there, And it's like, well, do I have to explain to you? Do I have to show you my crutches? Do I have to get up and walk? Like you can't guess who has a disability and who doesn't, and who deserves what rights and who doesn't, because you don't know the individuals that you're talking to. So people just need to be mindful about others and their rights and just let them be,
Well, it's funny that you should mention that because I was referring to the disability parking, and because I get vertigo and I've got balance issues. So even though sometimes I look all right, with fatigue and other issues, I could really hurt myself and end up in the hospital. And I broke my nose a few years ago, from my issues that I have. So on the outside, like when people are like trying to analyse whether I actually have the right to this parking, they don't really know, do they? They don't really have the insight. And my car's been damaged a number of times actually, and I assume it's because of that reason. I don't know 100%. So not only do I have expenses of medical things that I have to have, and with my condition I have to seek not only the general type of medicine, but because of the nature of my conditions, plural, I have to seek alternative remedies because unfortunately the general medical population don't know how to deal with my issues. They don't even sometimes recognise them, let alone find remedies to assist me in my day-to-day life. So I have to spend a lot of money, and on top of that money I have to spend, I get my car vandalised, and it's really disheartening when that happens. So, it really upsets me a lot. So, anyway, so that's just for anyone listening to this on demand down the road, just think about your actions and, put yourself, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. And trust me, once you walk that mile, you never want to go back to that mile. Even though I've learned to deal with my medical issues, I have to have constant costs related to therapy that are not covered. I don't get NDIS. It's not about NDIS. But I have to basically fund my own medical issues. This has been for a very long time. This has been from when I was an adult, because my family also had barriers. There was also family barriers and attitudinal barriers that I had to deal with. And I was so fortunate that I have capacity to, go to university, go to education, and get the qualification I needed to get the work I needed to fund my life. So this relates to every part of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful that I have that capacity to go on with life and to live life, and to try and live my life to the fullest. So if that means, travel like everyone else does in life, well, so be it. Because people with disabilities have rights to live their life as they see fit.
Yeah.
Without prejudices. There's lots of prejudices in the world. And when people see me doing stuff, it's really the attitudes are really quite amazing. And I think to myself, this is so wrong. But I try to educate them, but sometimes people are so stuck in their ideas that they don't listen to you, or they don't want to listen to you. But that's another side of disability that people should acknowledge, and just stay out of the life of someone they perceive is not worthy. Not worthy, Colin.
No.
With what your message is, we're not worthy to live a life.
No, we're not. I want to try and answer that question that you just asked before, something about the future. I think it was along the lines of what would I like to see in the future? And then I asked you, do I have a magic wand? What I'd love to see, what I hope for the future is that all people with a disability have the same basic human rights as anyone else in the community. There's no there might be discrimination, bits of discrimination here and there, but I'm talking about discrimination against people with a disability. All that's gone and stopped, and that we're all just living in this country as one happy family, or as happy as we can be. I also hope that one day we get another national group together like we did in 1984 or 86. It was called People First of Australia. I'd love to see another national self-advocacy group taking on the big issues and fighting for them. I think the most important thing for me, there's two things that are important. The first thing is that every person that works in DHHS, including ministers, they have a person with a disability working alongside of them. Imagine how wonderful that'd be. My main dream, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, but one day, I hope it might, that the Premier of Victoria or the Prime Minister of Australia is a person with a disability. Imagine how wonderful and powerful that would be. I hope that if that did happen, I hope that it wouldn't go to their head and they still remain loyal and true to the self-advocacy movement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great, Colin. There are so many invisible disabilities. Who's not to say that someone in power, over the past 10 years or in the past hasn't had a disability. His mental health now is a disability, So there are all these other different categories that have come up throughout the decades, like autism. The people on the autism spectrum. And I really love these people because they just have the ability to see things from another perspective. So, because so that'd be really, really inspiring to see someone that can see life through another lens. It's a very interesting concept that could happen, or it may have already happened, but because of the attitudes to disability, you can't do this, you can't do that. The boxes that people put others under, categories, maybe people are not willing to come out and say, and to disclose. But we know in when people disclose in job interviews that there's a likelihood they may not get that job. So so that's quite interesting. So I've got something stuck in my teeth. My breakfast. Colin, we have to wrap it up now. We've just got a few.
Before you do, can I just say one quick thing?
Sure.
I promise it'll be quick.
Sure.
I just want to say thank you to you and Nemo for inviting me here today. It was a great pleasure to meet you both, especially you, Nemo. I met Julie before, and I also want to thank all the people with a disability who have done a hell of a lot towards helping other people with a disability get what they want. And I also want to thank all the people who have passed on, who have contributed in some way. Thank you.
So this is the 23rd of December, Colin. Yep. So we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes. So and all our viewers out there, and we just hope that and wish that 2021 will be full of love and laughter and joy and movement, positive movement in society. So we just got a few official things we have to do now. You can actually hang on. You can stay, Colin, if you like.
Okay. And I also would like to thank Julie. I would like to thank Colin. Colin, thank you so much. You are, I don't know how I can describe you. You're just an amazing individual, a great advocate. Never met anyone like you, and I really hope to meet you in person one day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'll just let you know. I met Colin at a conference a few years ago in Geelong. He was speaking before me, and I got up with a panel of 4 people from D&D, and I finished my presentation, and Colin stood up and started to clap, and I got my first standing ovation. It was about 200 people, and I felt like a deer in the headlights. Like, I couldn't believe these people were standing up and just clapping me on. So that's what life in the self-advocacy movement, and in life, that's how life should be. People encouraging others to live their best life. And the conference was about convincing the NDIS to include self-advocacy as part of their platform for the NDIS. And it was the actual conference convinced the NDIS. So because a lot of organisations get funding now, which has seen great improvements for the NDIS participants. So I love and thank Colin for that encouragement, and looking forward to working with him again, Colin.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. So we just have to do a few official things before we end the session. So for the last time in December the 23rd, 2020, D&D would like to thank the MRC Northwest Management for the support they give to the D&D Your Life, Your Voice project. This YouTube channel is funded by Victorian DHHS and Wallen City Council. We'd like to thank them for the funding provided to this progressive out-of-the-box project, especially in these difficult times living through the pandemic. COVID-19 has been particularly difficult for people living with disabilities and living in isolation. And we hope that this channel has given them some joy and relief. So we'd like to thank our guest speaker for today. And we have a series 2 coming up next year. So we'd like your ideas on what topics and guest speakers we'd like Your Life, Your Voice project to explore. Please feel free to email us on dndyourlifeyourvoice@gmail.com.au, and you can catch all our episodes on demand on Your Life, Your Voice. And that actually is the end of our series for 2020. So thank you everyone for your participation, and we will see you again next year. So thank you, Colin and Eva, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us on our last day of the D&D Your Life, Your Voice project. We wish that life gets better from now on, and D